Hey everybody, welcome into the DFS Den. It's Dave Eddy here, aka Corporal Eddy on Twitter, and we're back for week 5 NFL DFS. Let's get into my picks and some thoughts for this week. And as you can tell, my voice is a little bit better. Now, I'm still ready to go just in case, but hopefully I don't need much of anything to drink here. So I had a good week 4. I hope you had a good week 4 as well. Let's see what week 5 brings us. Let's start with quarterbacks. We're going to start cash. I think that Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts basically identically priced, very similar to last week. Those are your pay up options at quarterback. As usual, they've got the highest floors on the slate because of, their ability to run the ball. And obviously they've been passing extraordinarily well too. But, both have good matchups. You kind of just got to decide, which one of those two that you're going to roll with. Or if you want to pay down, there's an interesting cheap option, if you will, and that's Tom Brady. He's coming in at only $6K on DraftKings, going up against Atlanta, a team that we know he owns. This price and the fact that all of his weapons are expected to be on the field in what is a pretty juicy matchup makes him definitely cash viable. So those are the kind of 3 things that I'm looking at. I can't decide if I want to pay up or pay down yet this week. We kind of got to see what else shakes loose as far as, the rest of the positions to see, do you need to spend down on Brady and save the 2,000, or are you better off, paying up? So we'll see how that works out. All 3 of those guys are in play for me in MME. I usually just play 3 quarterbacks in MME, and I kind of break it down fairly evenly, 35%, 35%, 30%, and then I break stacks out amongst those guys. At this exact moment, I don't know who my 3 quarterbacks are. Brady, Hurts, and Allen, probably one of those 3 are going to be in the mix. I like to be a little bit different. I don't like to go so chalky. But more than likely, one of those 3 is going to be in the mix. But the other 2 guys I'm going to talk about, at least for now, certainly are. And the first one is Justin Herbert. He's going up against the Browns, coming in at 7.1K on DraftKings. Kind of a middling game total, kind of a middling team total as well. Which leaves me some hope that, this game could get overlooked a little bit. But listen, man, Chargers, 6th most passes in the league to this point. And Herbert seems fully healthy to me. So I like this game this week. I think that they get into a little bit of a shootout with the Browns. And so right now, Herbert is looking probably like my favorite play. A little bit off script here. Is my next guy, Carson Wentz, going up against the Titans. He's coming in 5.7K. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Dave, Carson Wentz sucks. And listen, that may be true, but I'm not employing him to win me a real life football game. I'm looking to use him to win me some money in DFS. And Carson Wentz is probably going to be pretty low owned this week. And it really does come down to the fact that I think it's a good matchup here. Titans have given up the 6th most points to QBs this year. And Commanders have thrown the ball the 2nd most times this year, and they have the 4th highest passing percentage in the league. So could be a lot of points for Carson Wentz, at least available to him, this week. Whether he comes through and pulls them out or not, that's another story. But I definitely think that Wentz is in position to have a good game here, and I could see him being the MME winning quarterback this week, crazy as it might sound. First 2 weeks against bad defenses, he put up about 32 points a game, and he gets another one this week. I think that Jahan Dotson being out actually helps us a little bit, just from a DFS perspective, because it makes the targets pretty condensed to where I know they're going to Samuel, I know they're going to McLaurin. I really like McLaurin this week, even as, I wouldn't say as a one-off, but even as a secondary stack. So I think stacking Wentz is really quite easy. And, you can run it back the other side of things with either Derrick Henry, because we expect that the Titans are going to try to run the ball. And we've been seeing Henry in the passing game at least a little bit. And then with Treylon Burks out, Robert Woods could be in for a huge game. So something along the lines of Wentz with McLaurin and Woods, let's say, I think makes for a pretty nice stack this week. But let's get into running backs. Again, we start with cash. We got Leonard Fournette against Atlanta, coming in at a very nice 6.9K salary. I mean, potentially a blowout for the Bucs, which means, Lenny could handle a ton of touches. So high volume, decent price. nice cash play. Khalil Herbert against the Vikings, 6.2K. Montgomery looking like he's trending to be out again this week. Obviously, if Montgomery is in, I am off on Herbert, well, at least for cash. But assuming that Montgomery's out, high volume play here again at a good price. I mean, he wasn't amazing last week, but he was so highly owned that it really didn't matter in cash because everyone was going to get his points, good or bad. So I don't think he's going to be as highly owned this week, but definitely someone that I'm interested in playing. Jeff Wilson against the Panthers coming in at 5.5K. Again, high volume, reasonably priced target. I mean, if you're new to cash, maybe you're kind of sensing a pattern here. But he's about as good as it gets, in my opinion, as far as a bet to get 20 touches and a touchdown this week. So, I think he's got the same chance as pretty much anybody on this slate does. And then Breece Hall going up against the Dolphins, coming in at 5.4K. He's been seeing his volume increase each and every week. And I do think it's safe to say that he's the RB1 right now for the Jets. And definitely the pass catching back. So, you probably expect to see him get a lot of volume this week, in a matchup against a pretty high scoring Dolphins team. For MME, we're going to start with Derrick Henry going up against the Commanders. Talked about the other side of that game with Washington. He's coming at 8.2K. Titans are going to try to slow this game down against the Commanders. That's going to be the way that they want to do things without Treylon Burks, in the game. I'm not sure if they'll be successful or not. So, it's nice to have both sides of the fence where, Derrick Henry has a monster game and where, the game becomes a little bit of a shootout kind of, just because both defenses are so bad. It's not I love these offenses kind of a thing. It's, I want to attack these defenses. So, he's a guy, like I said, that can be used as a run back in a Wentz stack as well. Nick Chubb going up against the Chargers. He's at 8K on DK this week. I think Chubb is going to go under-owned, and that becomes a fairly common thing, it seems. But he does have a lot of TD potential in this game. Again, it's in a game against the Chargers here, which I expect to be high scoring, which is why I'm so high on Herbert this week. I think this ends up being the highest scoring game of the week. Again, makes for a really solid run back with Herbert stacks. I think that, I don't think Herbert's going to be super popular. And I think that the people that do stack Herbert probably don't run it back with Chubb. So I think doing that makes you even more unique. And it's not like Chubb can't have a huge game as well. So you're not just doing it to be unique. You know what I mean? Miles Sanders against the Cardinals, 6.5K. I think he makes for really nice leverage off of what I think is going to be a really popular Eagles passing game. Sanders has, seen the lion's share of the volume in that backfield. And I could see him being the recipient of some TDs, do this offense pretty much having a field day against the Cardinals. So that's kind of why I'm looking at him. Jeff Wilson, 5.5K against Panthers. Already mentioned, earlier about the volume you're going to get at a reasonable price. I think that Wilson right now is probably my favorite running back on the slate for this week, just because, like I said, volume and price. And then I want to touch on Rachaad White going up against Atlanta, 5.1K. Listen, White got his share of touches last week, and what was a very negative game script for the Bucs. This is a matchup against Atlanta where I don't expect the Bucs are going to be playing from behind at all, which to me means White isn't really going to be a part of this offense. It's going to be the Lenny show. It's a full fade for me this week on Rachaad White. Wide receivers, let's look at cash options here. Not a ton that I like. So I don't have a whole bunch that I'm bringing up at this point in time. I think that there's enough cheaper options this week where in cash you can make a pretty well-rounded lineup. I don't think we have to do like a stars and scrubs like often happens. I think we can just, like I said, have a nice well-rounded lineup. But I'm looking at Deontay Johnson against Buffalo. Comes in at 6.1K. Takeaway last week, and he's been the model of consistency for us. I'm a little bit worried, though, about a rookie quarterback, Kenny Pickens, throwing him the ball. But he's without a doubt their best pass catcher, and he's one of the better ones in the league. I think he's priced to play in cash. Brandon Cooks going against the Jags, coming at 6.1K as well. I mean, it seems like a cash option week after week because he gets a high target volume. Now, admittedly, he hasn't done much with those targets, but the fact that they're there and that his price is reasonable, he's a guy that is at least an option for me in cash. I hope that I don't have to go there, but I'm not hating it if that's what I have to do. Chris Olave going up against the Seahawks, coming in at only 5.7K. And listen, I do like Olave better in all formats if Wilson ends up being under center. Regardless, though, whether it's Dalton, whether it's Wilson, you cannot deny the target volume and especially the air yards that he's getting. Those things, along with his price, might make him a lock in cash. When we get to MME, again, I'll just start off with Olave again. He's going to be the most popular wide receiver on the slate. I think this is chalk that I'm willing to eat, though. Like I said, he's just a guy that is just mispriced, I believe. Got some very easy stacking partners. You can either go DK Metcalf or you can go with my next guy, Tyler Lockett, going up against, obviously, the Saints. Comes in at 5.6K. I mentioned good stacking partner with Olave. Like Olave, though, I think he's going to be very popular. So even though I like Lockett more than I like DK Metcalf this week, I think that they both have a similar ceiling. And Metcalf's going to garner a lot less ownership. So you've really got to decide, do you want to go with Lockett, who's been a little more consistent, or do you want to go with DK, who's going to simply have less ownership? And usually the ownership is what makes a bigger difference to me, but we'll see how it shakes out. Amari Cooper going up against the Chargers. We talked about that game. He's coming in at 6K. And you know how much I like this Chargers and Browns game this week. And so to me, Cooper makes for, an obvious run back option. Now, granted, he's a much more obvious choice than Chubb, who I do like better because of the leverage and uniqueness, but I'm definitely going to have some Amari Cooper as run backs with my Herbert stacks. And then let's hop into some tight ends here. I'm trying to make it a little quicker this week. I know everyone's busy, got a whole lot going on. So, I want to give you information, but I also want to do it in a timely fashion so you can, go about, other things. So I'm going to talk one option here for cash tight ends, and I'm talking TJ Hockenson. He's going up against Patriots. He's 4.9K, which doesn't sound like a lot, but does make him the second highest priced tight end on this slate because we're missing so many top guys. Listen, man, he had a historic performance last week, and he's at least in position to have the same opportunity to do so this week. Granted, it's against a much better defense. I mean, at this price, even though, again, he is second highest on the slate, but he's still only 4.9K, so you kind of got to put it in perspective a little bit. It's going to be hard to fade Hawk in cash, but he is far from a sure thing, and there are plenty of cheaper options this week that I don't mind in cash. They just don't have the same ceiling as Hockenson. So, again, not sure what I'm going to do at tight end in cash, but Hockenson, like I said, tough to fade this week. And then even in MME, I mean, Hockenson, just due to the opportunity, he might have the second highest ceiling on this slate. He's definitely in play. Just know he's going to be pretty popular. I like Zach Ertz, kind of a revenge game here against Philly, right? 4.8K. He sees a lot of volume in targets for a tight end. And I expect the Cardinals are going to be playing catch up. So the game script should be there for it to be in Ertz's favor. He seems to be coming in pretty low owned as well. And I think that that's just because, at that price, people are probably preferring Hockenson. So I think he makes for a nice leverage play this week. Got to talk about Kyle Pitts going up against the Buccaneers, 4.4K. He's going to be a pretty popular run back option for all those Brady stacks. But man, I tell you, I don't know what to do with Kyle Pitts. I mean, all the talent in the world, nobody can deny that, but talent doesn't equate to points. I do expect at some point, though, he's going to have some massive game. And it's going to be a matter of, did you trust him that week or not? This could be the week, or, it could be week 6 or 10 or 12, or who knows. It's just he's been so disappointing this year. And the fact that he looks to be pretty chalky this week, I think is just a reason for me to say, hey, I'm going to put, any of my Atlanta shares into Drake London. And if Kyle Pitts beats me, then, so be it. I can live with that. Last guy I want to talk about, Tyler Higbee, going up against the Cowboys, 4.3K. Basically, for the most part, this is a game that I'm avoiding. I'm just going to fade most of the Cowboys and Rams. I mean, it's going to be hard to completely get away from Cooper Kupp. I always try to force him into at least some lineups each week because he can just break every slate, and he typically does, honestly. But I think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. That being said, Higbee's going to be very popular. He is a good play. I just think I'm going to go elsewhere personally, but I'm not going to fault anyone that plays Tyler Higbee. His volume has been ridiculous. Let's get to everyone's favorite defense and special teams. I'm going to make it really easy for cash. The cash play is the Cowboys going up against the Rams, like I just talked about. They're mispriced. They're only 2.5K. That doesn't make any damn sense. Like I said, expect this to be a very low-scoring defensive battle. They're going to get some sacks. They're probably going to get a pick or more. And hell, maybe that leads to a defensive touchdown. If that does, you're golden. But they're going to be the highest owned defense. They're probably going to be really damn popular in cash. Either way, complete lock for me. I'm playing them in cash. MME, obviously, if they're popular, I'm not playing them in cash. They're too variable. You know, they're not consistent when it comes to defenses. So any week, I'm not playing the most popular defense. That's pretty much a given. So I will be fading them for leverage in tournaments. That's what, most of you should always do. I don't want to break down too much of the defense because usually it's just punt plays. So I'm going to rattle off some names of teams that are going to be in my pool at this point. I'm looking at the Bears, I'm looking at the Texans, Panthers, the Commanders, the Titans, and then if you want to pay up a little bit, Dolphins, 49ers, and Bills. So that's what I'm looking at this week. I hope everyone, has a good week in week 5. We're getting a little bit further into the season now. So, we're getting more and more data, which makes, coming up with these plays a little bit easier in the beginning of the season. It's a little bit of guesswork, especially like week 1. But now that we're into week 5, we start to get some data. We can start to make some reasonable conclusions. And then we just see if they pan out. But listen, if you haven't done so yet, I need you to pop over here. I want you to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notifications. It's just doing you a favor because you're going to get a notification every single time a new video comes out. And then drop a like on this. Look forward to seeing how y'all do in week 5.